So we get ready. And so thank you all very much for attending our session here, Leading Through Crisis. As you all know, that we're experiencing in the world and also here in the U.S., a national crisis. So I want to thank you all for joining us. As many of us are dealing with, different crises and different things that are happening. And this is an opportunity for me to share some information, facilitate on this topic, Leading Through Crisis. Just to let you know, John C. Maxwell had a leadership summit with the John Maxwell team, and he allowed us to release this content and actually add value to everyone. So my goal is to run a couple of mastermind sessions. I have one starting today, then every Tuesday for the next 3 weeks at the same time is to run these. And so I know many of us are dealing with many things, as also you might hear my older daughter, 4-year-old in the background. So, we are now working with children, and so that's hopefully it's not a crisis for a lot of people, but we'll make it work. And so thank you all very much. And so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull a poll up here on the screen that people could answer. All right. And so hopefully it pops up here for me. If not, maybe I'll ask the poll. All right. So tell me, what, based on the crisis that you're in right now, between 1 being low to 10 being high, what do you think is your grade for your current crisis? You don't have to tell us what the crisis is. You can just tell us what do you feel on that level from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. And anyone.
What is it, 1 to 10? 1 to 10? 1 to 5. What's the range again?
The rating is 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
1 is low. 10 is being a high rating for the crisis. So anyone could share right now. What is your rating now for that high crisis? 1 being low, and then 10 being high. So you can tell us, or you can put it in chat. All right, people got 3, 4, 5. All right. All right, that's cool. And so it seems like the crisis hasn't got whatever crisis that, you're talking about is not as high as 10. So hopefully that's a good thing. But, today what I want to share with you all is here, and as you all can see on the screen, is based on the teaching by John C. Maxwell. This mastermind group information was developed. You should have the participant guide on your screen. If you like, in the chat section, there is a link for a Google document. If you want to download the PDF, will be great. Also posted a link there for the videos that John Maxwell has on his website that you could take a look at. It will be awesome. But let's just go through here like these 3 points here that is listed on the front page of the participant guide. So the goal is to help people learn practical ways to maneuver through times of difficult and adversity. Also effectively battle distractions during times of crisis and stress, and also to adopt successful thinking habits to think your way through any crisis. And so as you see those bullet points, there's a reason why people jumped on this seminar mastermind. And there's many people out there that I've talked to that are trying to figure out ways to go through whatever crisis they're going through. It could be for their life, could be for their career, could be for their business. And so if you have successful ways of thinking and habits, going through the crisis will be a little bit easier for you. All right. So feel free also, if you all have any comments or questions as I'm talking, you pop them in the chat section, or you can definitely ask them. So I ask that you all be willing to share, communicate, and if you all want to pop in the chat section, just like sharing about yourself, what do you all do, and why did you join this? That'd be cool. But let's talk about defining the crisis. All right. So if you look at the session 1, crisis is in the first part of John Maxwell Leading Through Crisis. He offers the first main teaching point, right? Because he talks about crisis is very common. All right. It's a very common thing. And so, yes, nationally, yes, in the world, we might be facing this huge crisis with coronavirus, but crisis happens all the time. And so, before, this coronavirus, before things happen, I was dealing with a crisis of myself and my own. And so, people like, how are you doing, now with the crisis of the coronavirus? I said, listen, I had a crisis before the coronavirus. So, I kind of have a plan of things that I already worked on. So as you see here, as it talks here in session 1, it talks about how during a crisis, bad leadership precipitates a faster fall, while good leadership offers steadiness and perseverance. And I don't know if anybody wants to share about that statement, but during a crisis, bad leadership precipitates a faster fall, but good leadership offers steadiness and perseverance. And, does that resonate with anybody? If so, share around that phrase for me. Feel free, anyone, you could jump in and let us know what you think about that phrase. Bad leadership, right, precipitates a faster fall, and good leadership offers steadiness and perseverance.
Well, I totally agree with it, because it's true. I mean, if someone is in charge and they're calm, then the people following will be more likely to be calm. And the reason the person leading that is calm is because they have a plan and they can offer hope.
Awesome. They can offer hope. That's a good one, right? People can offer hope. And during this time, a lot of people need hope. A lot of people need to see and hear something different from leaders, right? And so we're talking about, leading through a crisis. And so how we actually react to something is how people are going to perceive something. So if you see here, ultimately, John defines crisis as an intense time of difficulty requiring a decision that will be a turning point, all right? Ultimately, John defines crisis as an intense time of difficulty requiring a decision that will be a turning point. And so, leadership, and it could be in your life, it could be in your career, it could be in your business. In order to change the direction of a crisis usually takes a decision, all right? What are we going to do at this time? We're facing this crisis. This thing is happening. And, people are looking for leaders to make a decision, right? And so, and based on what the leader's decision is, would determine what's going to happen in the future, right? So let's say, for instance, if I was a general of the army, and, I went and I told the soldiers, hey man, we're facing this crisis. I don't know what to do with it. What do you all think we should do? You already told them you don't know what to do, so they might not know what to do either. And so at times of crisis, leaders have to make difficult decisions. And that might be decisions that might be right in a certain situation, and it might be decisions that might be wrong. And so what I would say to you all is that, we could be paralyzed by a crisis. If anybody want to snap their fingers or do a ditto because of that, what I just said, sometimes we could be paralyzed in a crisis. And, many times we don't want people to be paralyzed and not make decisions. We want people to make decisions in a crisis. All right. And so if you look at this question, why do you think a crisis makes it easier to distinguish between good and bad leaders? Anybody can answer that. Why do you think a crisis makes it easier to distinguish between good and bad leaders? You could, if you all, somebody could say something, or you could type it in the chat box. Why do you think a crisis reveals the good and bad of a leader? All right. There's a quote: when the tide goes out to the sea, who is naked? All right. Who is naked, right? So it reveals the good and bad of a leader. And so, you know, one of the things that we do with the John Maxwell team, we offer people, if they like, to take a look at their personality profile, right? And to see what their profile comes out. And depending on your profile, reveals how you deal with stress. All right. And so if you look at this, you know, why do you think it makes it easier? It's just going to reveal who you are as a leader, right? You know, and as a leader, people are looking to you for how to make a decision, or they're looking to you, you know, for strength, or they're looking for you to do what they should do next. All right. And so to give you an example, and I'll share this with you. I'll share this with you all, is that, you know, I remember talking to a couple of my team members that I do business education with in a program called 10,000 Small Business Program. And they say, Kareem, you know, everything's a mess and you're not losing it. And you should be upset that this is not working, and this is not working out right. And you should be losing your mind right now. And I said to them, well, why should I be losing my mind like you all are when there needs to be a leader to take charge? And so the reason why I was staying calm, because somebody had to stay calm in this thing. And so leaders are people that show character to their followers. I'm gonna say that again. Leaders will show character to their followers. And so based on your character, you really should be thinking about, what do you want to portray to the people that's following you, the people that report to you, the people that you're asking to do things to you. And so I like that. Linda said, leaders show up in challenging times. That's true, right? And so, and as you can see, you know, you see many people in their community nowadays taking control over a certain situation. The leaders, you know, might not have a title, might not have a position. They might just be people doing something. And so it's very interesting to see people step up. So let's answer that question number 3. What experience do you have in leading during a crisis? All right. What experience do you have with leading? Or if you want to put something in the chat box, what experience do you have leading during a time of crisis? And it might not just be something related to work, but it could be something related to your personal life, right? Just think about that. What experience do you have leading through crisis? And then also, number 4, what is one lesson from that experience that you can share with the group? All right. And so what is one lesson that you can share with the group? And so anybody want to, you don't have to share the crisis that happened if you think it's very personal, but you might want to share what you did during this crisis. So feel free if anybody wants to share with the group, you know, what is one lesson that you experienced and learned from that crisis? All right. Mine said, I learned that I am much stronger than what I was. All right. Awesome. All right. Anyone wants to share verbally, you can. If not, you'll put that in the chat. section. What is one thing that you learned from that experience? One thing that you learned. Maybe you learn not to do something again like that, or maybe you learn not to make that decision again that transpired. And so feel free to put it in the chat section. One thing that you learned. All right, God is bigger. I like that. All right, awesome. Not always having the answers, but have a clear direction to keep moving forward. That's a good one. Let's talk about that. Not having all the answers, but having a clear direction to keep them moving forward. That is huge. And the reason why that is so important is because being authentic, and you probably all heard of that word before, being authentic is more important than just giving an answer. All right. And so authentic could be like, what are you going to do about the situation? And like Linda says, you might not have an answer, but you might have a clear direction. Right. So if someone came to me and said, can you help us with this budget? Can you help us with this information? And don't you have the answer of what our profit is? And I might not have the answer right now, but I can say, listen, I'm gonna get the answer and I'll give you the answer, when I get the information in a day or 2 days, versus just making up a number just so I could please those people. And so that's one of the important things as you look at a crisis, standing up and being authentic and trust as a leader. So in your opinion, what makes a crisis seem so urgent? Someone could verbally answer that, or you can actually put it in the chat section. In your opinion, what makes a crisis seem so urgent? All right. What makes a crisis seem so urgent? All right. In your opinion, what makes a crisis seem so urgent? Dia says seem. So what do you think is urgent? In your opinion, what makes a crisis urgent? Let's take the seem out of it. All right. So seeing some people put down here, unknown factors. For real is urgent, like, life and death. Yes. All right. All right. There's a life and death urgent situation. And as you can see, what's happening with so many people getting sick and now people losing their lives, it's a life and death situation. And in the crisis, you want someone that has dealt with that experience, or people that have dealt with that experience, so they're going to provide the right alternative to what's happening now. So, I like what Giovanni says, when it alters your daily living. Wow, it's true. It's true. There's many people that have lost their jobs, lost their income currently, and they're trying to figure out, what do I do now? Right? I'm dealt with this crisis. I have bills to pay. I have a family to take care of. What do I do now? And so they're looking for answers. And so some of those people are looking for answers from people like us. And so it's the way that we react and the way that we handle the situation that is going to help people get through. All right. And so that means that we might not be able to solve every problem for people, but we might be able to help them and reassure them about what they're going through so they can get to where they need to be. All right. And so next question, how should a leader combat the sense of urgency without seeming disconnected from the situation? Wow, that's a good question right there. How should a leader combat a sense of urgency without seeming disconnected from a situation? You all feel free to put some in the chat section, or feel free to share. Oh, be calm. All right. That's a good one. Be calm. How should a leader combat the sense of urgency? Have a specific plan of action. All right. Cool. All right. What else? Listen with empathy. Woo, that's a good one. Let's talk about listening. How many, on a scale of 1 to 3, well, no, yes or no, put it this way. How many people think that a lot of leaders listen? It can be yes or no. How many people you think that a lot of leaders listen versus they just want to communicate? Oh, people said no, right? Right. And if you think about that, listening is a skill, and it's an art also. And so as a leader, a lot of times, leaders want to talk versus listen. And, because as leaders, people, sometimes leaders feel that they have to have the answer for everything. And that might not be true, right? They don't have to have the answer for everything, but they might be able to get other people to answer the question, right? And so I forgot who it was, but someone, I remember a leader saying, listen, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I just want to gather the smartest people in the room as a leader. And so, looking at that, how should leaders define reality in times of crisis? Look at number 7. How should leaders define reality in the times of crisis? How should they define it? How should the realism of the crisis be defined as a leader? This is temporary, all right? Also, what else? How should leaders define reality in times of crisis? Factual. All right, cool. We're getting some good stuff. Prioritize, right? Prioritize. And one I would share is that leaders should look at the reality from the view of the person. All right, from the person's view. And the reason why I say that is that we might have a view of someone's situation, but because we're not in that person's shoes, we don't know what they're going through. All right. So let me give you an example. I have 2 family members that struggle with mental illness. And, I don't have mental illness, don't know what they're going through. So I don't understand what their mind is going through, because my mind is molded differently, right? And I don't have to take medication to help me think a certain way. And so, sometimes what I do in that situation when they're going through a crisis, I say, listen, tell me how you feel. Tell me what you're going through, because I'm trying to understand it, but I really can understand because my reality is totally different than your reality. And so, listening is so important, because we fail sometimes as people. I even talk about leaders. We fail sometimes that we have the answer to everybody's problem. I just had to laugh about that. We feel as leaders that sometimes, or as people, that we have the answers to people's problems. And yes, we might have the answer, but maybe that person is not open to receive our feedback, right? And so we got to understand where they are in order to try to help them out. So comments, questions, people, concerns that people have now, before we look at the last question, number 8, comments, questions that people might have, or things that you might want to share in the chat section or share verbally, or questions you might have for me before we go over that last question and talk about what we're going to talk about for next session, session on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about battling distractions during a crisis. All right, battling distractions during a crisis. So question number 8, how should leaders communicate that reality to their teams? I think you all put some of that, kind of be like authentic, kind of be factual, having a plan, with a laid out plan, or having something in place so you could communicate effectively to the team. And so let's look at the application. So the application for session 1 is truly decide where you want to turn for information when defining reality in times of crisis. All right. That's the application. Think of ways as a leader, as a person, that will get helpful, accurate data and insight from trusted resources. So that's the application. So I would say over, between the next session, think of information you can grab to help you when you're facing a crisis, and also trusted resources. All right. And then so the other thing I would ask people, to get some feedback from you. What did you think so far about what we talked about session number 1, defining the crisis, and also 1 takeaways from today? So what did you think about so far about defining a crisis, and also 1 takeaway from today? All right. 1 takeaway from today and feedback about what you thought. All right. I love these thought-provoking questions. It's cool. Thank you, Giovanna, for that feedback. And what else? Anything from Linda? Feedback about today and one takeaway. All right. View from somebody else's side, right? Trying to look at what's going on with that person and what they're facing is huge, right? Because it's almost like, and I'll share. It's almost like, those things that's called drones nowadays, right? And usually a lot of people fly their drones up. They have a camera on it, or they have the cell phone on it. They start taking pictures from the view above. And so when you're looking at the view above, you have a different perspective than what the people on the ground view is. All right. And so sometimes, when you have a different perspective or a different view, you can see things differently. The people might not see it the way you see it because you're looking at that person's perspective very differently, And so I always like to look at, the football games when say the quarterback, right? The quarterback threw an interception, or they finished something on the field, and then they run over to the bench. And usually the first thing what happens with the quarterback nowadays is that the coach runs over to the quarterback or whoever, the person with the tablet or computer, and shows the quarterback what they just did, right? And because the coach and the cameras have a different view than what the quarterback view was, because the quarterback is inside the game and the quarterback can see what they see, but they can't see everything. And so, I share that to say, leaders, you see a view of a perspective of things, of crisis, right? From your view. But what about the view of the people that's following you, the view of the people that you're making decisions about? Get their input, right? Ask them, how do they see it? Ask them, how do they feel? Or what do they suggest before you give your decision? Because you might get more information by listening than talking. So I just leave that there with everyone. Also, listen, we want to add value. We want to add value for people. So I want to add value to, let me see here, maybe all 3 of y'all. If you haven't taken the John Maxwell Myers-Briggs, not Myers-Briggs, John Maxwell personality style, I want to give you a free report. All right. So if you all want a free report, the John Maxwell this personality style, just let me know. And I will avail a report to you. It takes a couple of minutes to fill it out, and then I'll send you the report because you all decided to add value to me and be part of the session. So I want to add some more value to you. So it's yes, it's this personality style, and you get a full report. And so what I could do, I will send you all an email. All right. Cool. Everybody wants to do the report. Cool. And I have 3 licenses that I could give you all. Well, one for each. So I'll email you all the license to do the report, and then once the report is done, it should send you an email and send me an email also. And so listen, my goal by being a John Maxwell team member and myself is really to add value to people. And so especially during this time, people are looking for some trusted resources. And so hopefully people feel that John Maxwell team and myself is a trusted resource. So I want to thank you all for attending. Share the link with other people, if you want to share it and tell people to jump on next Tuesday at 11:15, feel free to do so. That'll be awesome. So thank you all for attending. Thank you for being a part of it. And anyone have any questions?